Hello, everybody. Good to be with you. Let me talk to you about the truth of why you really can't get it, or why, if you've had an awakening experience, it doesn't feel like you can get it back. First thing, let me tell you that there's no such thing as got it. There's only getting it. Like, right now, I'm getting it. Right now, I understand that I am awakeness, and that this is not other than me. But even all of this together doesn't equal me. But so I am clear at the moment. I'm awake and I'm clear. I know who I am right now. And if someone were to ask Betsy, so is Fred permanently awake? In a off moment, she might very well answer yes. He's been awake for years and years. But that isn't my experience here. That's the way it looks from the outside. But my experience here is that I'm awake to this moment, and that's as good as it gets. That's as good as it gets for anybody. Is that I'm awake to this moment, and once you wake up, you'll see why. And that's if you or wake back up, or if you are awake, you'll notice that that's why. Which is that there's only this moment. There's no one here to be permanently awake. I am not living in the now. You can say from the outside looking in, and if you were to judge behavior, you might think that this unit is sometimes living in the now. This unit is never ever living in the now. I, awakeness, am the now. You, awakeness, are this now. You are this now quite literally. This nowness, this moment, this arising, this content. The content of this arising is you, and more than that. But we'll not go there just yet. So the problem is that the one who is trying so hard to get this, and I have a lot of experience in trying to get it, because I was a seeker for 24 years. So please don't think I was a quick study. I plotted, and I stumbled, and I fell. And I had an awakening after 10 years, but it only lasted very, very briefly, and although there were some effects that lingered, ego basically overcame it in no time at all. And I had the biggest change that I got out of that was that I was tortured for the next 14 years to some extent, in that I knew something, but I didn't know what it was that I knew. I knew that somehow I had seen I was part of God or something like this, but I couldn't revisit that experience. I couldn't recreate it. And so on one level, I was just really miserable after that first awakening experience. So what I'm telling you is that there was a getting it in 1992, but no one got it. Someone claimed it. Fred claimed to have had an awakening, and he wanted you to know about it. And I started dressing differently and everything, so maybe you would notice. And I had little symbols and shit. I mean, it was just ridiculous. But try as I might, I couldn't get animals to come to me or any of the St. Francis stuff, and people didn't really notice that I was awake, and that could have been because of the fact that I wasn't awake. See? There had been an awakening experience. It's a completely different thing. Completely different thing. An awakening experience, as we're speaking of it today, does not constitute enlightenment. Enlightenment is, as we're speaking of it today, enlightenment is the living, it is really what we would call abidance, which is the where your default position in life is that of awakeness and not as a unit, in my case, as awakeness and not as Fred. And the default position long ago changed over to my recognition that I am awakeness living through a Fred. That I'm awakeness living, actually there's no Fred, so I'm awakeness living through this unit. And this unit is what? It's composed of many, many patterns. So, and just like Hurricane Harvey in Houston, there was this big, huge, round weather pattern with all this drama and lightning and thunder and flooding and death and destruction and all of this. And then there was the eye of Hurricane Harvey. And in the eye of Hurricane Harvey, that I've always thought there was an eye to these patterns, to this drama, to this weather. I always thought there was a center to that, just like the center of Hurricane Harvey. And there sort of is. It's just empty. See, the center of Hurricane Harvey is not the grandest pattern of them all. It's an absence of patterns. It's an absence of patterns. And we see it, we get it, we lose it just like that. I see it all the time. Because I have to reel people back and back and back until they get it more clearly. So the real reason that you can't get it, or the real reason that you can't get it back, is that the one who's trying to get it back never had it. And the one who's trying to get it can never get it. This is the most fundamental teaching that I can give you on awakening and living clearly, is that the position of the truth, let's just say the truth. The truth is never going to be realized by the unit. This unit cannot wake up. It does not have the capacity to wake up. It doesn't have the capacity to do anything on its own. If you withdraw the animating presence, it will flop on the ground, and it can't even decay by itself. It will need time and weather and insects. They are completely powerless. These things are walking cadavers, and cadavers are without animation, certainly without any free will. There's no animation. These cadavers can't do anything on their own. That's why I call them units, because that's what they are. They're units. This is a Red Bull unit, and what it and it now. But the difference is that this unit actually contains Red Bull. This is a Fred unit, but it doesn't contain a Fred. It contains just emptiness. That's all. And yes, I'm a spiritual teacher and I drink Red Bull. Okay? Nisargadatta smoked. How about that? It's surprising that these things are actually human and have completely human qualities. But don't think for a moment that you are exclusively a human. I can't tell you that you're not a human. I can't say that I'm not a human. I can say that I'm not a human, and that's actually true. I can say you're not a human, that's actually true. But it won't carry any weight because there is still the experience here of life as a human being. There's still an experience here of life as a Fred, even though there is no Fred. In the same way that you are experiencing life as a human being. The difference being is the one who is experiencing life as a human being is not a human being. It's not even planet-side. It's not on our planet. It's not in the world. It's not of the world. It just is. But when I say it is, What do I mean? I don't even know what I mean. I just mean it is. Everything is as it is. It can't be different from the way it is. I know this sounds like so much gobbledygook, but there's real stuff in here. Real stuff. There's a character over there. The character here was known as Fred. Still is by many. Now, even I will call it Fred. But this character is not a real character. See, I talk to people and we get it confused. People who've had awakenings and they know my language and they will report to me, well, the character did so and so. That's not true. The unit did so and so. That's true. But there is no character. It's an imagined character. I wake people up virtually, 5 or 6 days a week, virtually every day. Every day. I really do know what I'm talking about here. I don't know anybody else that wakes up people every day. There may be, I'm not saying that there aren't people who do it. I just don't know them. I'm in the thick of this every day. I'm in session after session every single day. And we're either trying to get it, we're trying to get it back, or we're trying to get clear about it. But the fact is that we're never talking about it. We are it. You are it. See, the thing that's looking for it is it. That's what's misunderstood. You think that there's a Bob or a Susan or a Tom or a Betty over there, and that you are looking for awareness or you are looking for the oneness experience. And what I'm telling you is that you're wrong. There's not a Tom or a Betty over there. That's an imagined position. It's something that you have completely made up. No fault of yours. You didn't really make it up. You just adopted it after your parents trained you into it. And they had a lot of help too, because all of your friends and neighbors and teachers and everything else all just jumped right into that. And everybody did what they were supposed to do. It's not an unskillful thing to do. Your parents have the responsibility to train a unit to live on the planet. And to live on the planet, you have to encourage the sense of separation. Because that's the way relativity works. Within relativity. But relativity only works. The laws of relativity only work in relativity. There's a whole nother universe. Let's call it dimension. There's a whole nother dimension. With a whole nother... There's only one thing going on. But I'm using these words to try to teach. So go with the moon and not the finger, but pay a little attention to the finger too. There's a whole nother dimension, if you will. There's another dimension to you. There's just one thing going on, but you're it. But there's a dimension to you that experiences and believes in relativity. I know, I was there for 50 years. And there's another dimension, which I broke through to in 1992. I just saw it. It's right here. It's the easiest thing in the world to see. You actually can't see anything else, but you can't recognize what it is until you do. And then you can't recognize it constantly until you do. And then until then, but it can't go anywhere. There's just one thing going on. There's just you. This is you. You can't fall out of yourself. All of experience is taking place within you is one way to put it. Upon you is another way to put it. It's arising, but what we can say for sure is that it is rising to you. That's for sure. That's the whatever it is that you are. See, because what I discovered was that there was no Fred over here. Fred Davis wanted so badly to wake up to the truth of the universe, and the truth of the universe woke up to the fiction of a Fred instead. We wake up to the character's absence. And then if we're not careful, we jump right back on that train. The ego comes in the back door, and we start reporting on our character. And who's reporting on the character? Our character. And it's just an imagined position that awakeness is taking. I don't work with people every day. It looks like, from the outside looking in, it looks like I work with people every day. And it looks like they send me PayPals, and that we have, our little private Zoom rooms and all this and that and the other, and none of that's true. I work with myself. That's the only thing I can work with. I work with myself. I work with oneness. How can I not work with oneness? I'm oneness. And since I'm oneness, I can't be outside of oneness. And oneness is also a view. But again, we don't need to go there today. What you can actually report right now, just to touch on it, you can report that there's a sense of being there. I can report to you that I have a sense that I am. I know that all the other non-dualists can report that they am, but I cannot. I can't report that I'm not. But I can't report that I am, because what I, quote, am, I can't not use that word, but I don't mean it in the same way, is beyond I am or I am not. It's beyond existence or non-existence. It's beyond all of these opposites. See, and as long as you insist on believing in that there's a you, meaning a human being you, a Fred, a Tom, a Bob, a Carol, a Sue, or whatever, that's going to get it one day, you ain't going to get it. Let me tell you something. A year ago, I had an awakening session with a very, very brilliant guy, which is the same kind of awakening session I have with people every day. Every day, everybody I work with has got a big brain. They do not call here if they don't have a big brain. They're not drawn to this path. They will be drawn to bhakti. They will be drawn to the law of attraction. They will, even some people with big brains, I guess, do that too. I mean, I'm sure they do. But big brains will find another path, or people without big brains will find another path, and many big brains will find a different path. But everybody that comes to this one has got a big brain, and doesn't mean that you have a degree or an advanced degree or anything like that. Many, many, many do. I am overrepresented here. My client list is overrepresented by MIT, right? Is that, in other words, the percentage of my clients does not reflect the percentage of MIT graduates in America, for instance. And I don't really know anything about MIT except for the fact that everybody that goes there is smarter than I am. And so these big brains, they want to figure this out. Please look at this. These brains weigh about 8 pounds. 8 pounds. You can hold one in the palm of your hand just like I'm doing here. And this thing actually believes that it does understand everything beyond it. Everything, the entire universe. It is just sure it's got virtually everything nailed down. And it just needs this one little last piece of information from a Fred Davis or some other teacher in order to put the last piece in the puzzle and have it all click, 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 and it'd be like hitting the machines in Las Vegas. Ding, 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 ding. Slot machines. Ding, 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 ding. Oh, now I got it. Now I've got it. I got an email from a guy the other day, and it's just sad. It's not. It just is the way it is. But it's kind of sad because you don't want to break somebody's heart. And this is a nice guy, and I've met with this guy, and he just wrote me to tell me that he had finally, he said, I don't care what they say, I've got it. And that was a declaration to me. He had no clue, but that was a declaration to me that I still don't have it. I'm hot on the trail. And he is. But he still doesn't have it. And when he talked to me, he believed he had it. He couldn't listen to me. He could not take instruction because he believed he already had it. This is actually more common than you think. I can't take you somewhere new if you think you're already there. Nobody can. I always speak from my own experience, but nobody can. You don't expect it of any other teacher either. A year ago, I mentioned this guy, this brainiac that I had a meeting with. And he's a psychologist, very pleasant and very precise, European. And he didn't get it. We had an awakening session, and he just did not get it. And then a week or so later, he showed up, and maybe a few days later, I don't know, but he showed up in satsang. And because he didn't get it in the awakening session, I gave him a second try in satsang live with a bunch of other people around. And I pretty much tortured him. I didn't want to torture him. I was trying to wake him up. I was trying to help him. And he didn't get it there either. And then I didn't hear, I understand. The funny thing is that everybody in the room pretty much, except for him, got it. It was pop, 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 pop. My people who were many of them were already awake, but they came to a freshness because they were just, because you couldn't miss what I was pointing out, what I was taking you through unless you could. And he could, and he did. And I didn't hear from him for about a year. I didn't think I'd ever hear from him again. I was very surprised and very pleased and proud for him that he was willing to step up to the plate again. No kidding. Most people won't do this. This is a guy who really wants to wake up. He did a session, he came to satsang, and now and he just got blown out and killed his ego or whatever, and then just went away for a while. But he came back. He keeps coming back. It's like, it's like quitting smoking. I didn't quit smoking the first time I tried to quit smoking. I quit smoking on probably the 10,000th time I tried to quit smoking, and it worked. Guess what? That's been almost 15 years ago. And I was a chain smoker for years and years and years. I was addicted to nicotine in the same way that I was addicted to separation. In the same way that I was addicted to believing my thoughts. It's not the thoughts that are harmful, folks. You don't need to quiet your mind and all that. It's nice to get some subtle points and all that. I don't have anything against quieting your mind. It's a plus. But don't think you have to. I was crazy as a bat out of hell in 2006 when awakening occurred here. Absolutely crazy. The mind was racing. So don't think. All that stuff you hear about is just what you hear about. And it happens sometimes that way, and it works sometimes that way, and that's wonderful. How about us? How about you and me? I notice it isn't working that way for us. And the only thing I care about is what works for us. That's the truth. What works for us. I don't care how it works. I don't care why it works. I don't care if it matches up with Advaita philosophy or Zen tradition or St. Francis or the Christian mystic. I don't care about any of that. I really don't. I only care about what works. Because I don't care what system you go to. When you go A Course in Miracles, same thing. And I'm going to talk about Course in Miracles at some point. Do a video or probably a post or both. Because it's a non-dual teaching and there's a lot to it. But I don't care if you go there or to any of the great traditions, Buddhism, any of the other non-dual traditions. There's stuff built into it, not intentionally. It's just can't hardly be avoided as long as you're coming together with a full package. I woke up somebody yesterday, a real nice guy, and we're going to do some more work together. And he's a great follower of Course in Miracles, and that's beautiful. I have no quarrel with that whatsoever. I studied for 2 years myself. But he told me, he said, it's the only teaching that he had found, at least for his satisfaction, that presented an entire package, right? Why this happened, how this happened, and what we can do about it. All this. And what I want to tell you is that I've yet to discover any package, so any religion or any big movement, that's not flawed. If I come up with an overarching tradition of this is how it is and this is the way it is and it's got to be this way, can't be any other way, I've got the truth, you don't have it, it ain't gonna be right. It's gonna be flawed. And we just attach to those flaws automatically. I don't know what it is, but it's just a human pull, is that we will attach to the flaws. I can read any legitimate scripture any body of scripture, not necessarily any quote from a scripture, not necessarily any one bit of a scripture. But I can quote from any body of scripture, and I can tell you the truth about it, which is that the truth is in there. Absolutely. But it's not in there by itself. It's just not. Which is the reason that I'm not bringing you a new package. I'm just stripping away the package that you have so that you can see the truth, and then you can move back into your package, but you can move back into it from a position of knowing. And you'll know what's so and you'll know what's not. It's just be completely different. I mean, you can come to know the Christian path much more deeply by awakening in whatever tradition it is that I represent. People think it's Advaita, but I don't know what it is. I mean, I call it, it's marketing terms for me. Non-dual's a marketing term. Advaita's a marketing term. It puts me in the flow of people who will identify with whatever it is I'm doing. But I don't know what I'm doing. The truth is that I can tell you that I feel that I am, but I don't know what I am. I don't have a clue. I don't know what I am, and I don't know what's going on here. I have no idea. But I notice I don't have any argument with it. Whatever it is that's going on here. Because what's going on here is not other than me, and why pick an argument with myself? the character wants so, and it's imaginary position, but don't think it's not incredibly powerful. The Fred or the Bob or the Betty wants that package. It wants a handhold. It wants something to grab. What I like to think of is that this teaching, as I like to think of it, is like my students as being like spacewalkers. You're out there from the space station and you've got the tether, right? And you're out there, wow, 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 this is fantastic. The void and all this, right? You know, and then you just pull yourself in by the tether so that you can get back on the space station and get a good handhold and sort of orient to this whatever it is. And you get close to the space station, and I put out my hand to pull you aboard, and you grab my hand, and then I just kind of give you a little shove. Right back out into the open, awake space. There are no handles here. When it's certainly when it's deeply understood, there is tremendous comfort here in this teaching, in the sense that it's ultimate comfort, because it's the natural state. That is the ultimate comfort. This natural state that I can't say that I'm speaking to you from. The natural state is actually what's speaking here. It's using this unit to do it, because this is the dreaming. But the primary dream here is not that this is Fred and Susan's dream and it's not going the way we want and we've got to manipulate it so that it is, because then we'll be okay. The primary dream is that I, awakeness, until I don't, believe I'm a Fred or a Susan or a Bob. These units are just, dear God, dear awakeness, this is your virtual helmet. And your mission, should you choose to accept it and put this thing on, and you put on your virtual hands, your mission then is to live within this dreaming by means of your avatar. This is an avatar. It is a sensing unit for awakeness. It's an experiencing unit for awakeness, but the unit itself is also experiencing. I don't say experience. In other words, it's experiencing. I'll say this slowly, but this is a complete sentence. Ultimately, there is only experiencing. That's the truth. So you have got, if you're going to wake up or you're going to wake back up, if you're going to get it or get it back, that's what it'll feel like. You'll never notice that you're looking from awareness while you're looking for awareness, but that's what's happening. You're looking from oneness for oneness, and that's why you can't find it, because you don't recognize you're already in it. You're it. You're not in it, you're it. This is it. You are it. We are the very same thing. We're showing up differently, but we are the very same thing. People want me to help them understand this. Hell, I don't understand this. I really don't. I don't understand. It can't be understood. This is a tiny, tiny, tiny part. And that thing cannot contain the whole. You cannot use this to hold awakeness. It is impossible. What you can do is you can use this as a tool. And you can behold awakeness. You can come to see, oh, it's this that they're talking about. It's this. I had no idea that oneness looked like this. I thought oneness looked like something else. But I don't know why I thought that, because there's not anything else if there's just oneness. So the problem is that you're oneness and you're holding out for something else. And that's a really tough position to be in if you're oneness, because there's not anything else. I love you. Thank you for joining me. Come to see me at awakeningclaritynow.com. I've got podcasts. I've got a zillion videos here, and there's no one here. There's no teacher here. Notice that. Just one thing going on. There's no room for a teacher. There's no room for a student. There's just room for this teaching, and it's not my teaching. It's yours. It's your teaching. There's no me here. So it's got to be yours. It's your teaching. And you left it for yourself like an alarm clock in the dream. And you pull some bogus guy from the woodpile and made him your spokesman, apparently just as a joke. That's all I can see. But we get what we get. This is what you got. I hope you can use it. See you later. Bye-bye.